All right. Hey, everyone. Hey. This is Shakim B with Truth, Trust, and Trajectory. And today I have a very exciting guest on my podcast. So I want to introduce you guys to my friend. She's a three-time author, Bambi.
Well, hello.
Yay!
Isn't this exciting?
Yes!
Now, your podcast, I love the podcast title, but you're going to have to try to say it over and over again because you pause at trajectory.
I know, I'm still working on it. I'm like, man, it's gonna look it by next week. It's gonna be like you're gonna be like, oh yes.
Exactly. That's so funny. That's awesome. I'm so glad to be on. I'm one of your first guests, right?
Right. Yes, you're the very first one. I'm so excited. And I feel like the conversation that we had the other day was so good. So I'm like, man, this podcast is gonna be bomb. I have my lime water here, so I'm all ready to go. Yes.
The first question that I want to ask you, I actually asked this on my Facebook. Do you happen to like tapioca pudding?
I do.
You like it warm or cold?
Okay, so I've only been accustomed to eating it cold. So I'm gonna say cold. Yeah, my mom. Okay, so my mom used to do like flan and tapioca. Like those were. It was a good week. Like we were poor, but we were doing good if we could get either one of those.
Tapioca pudding.
Yeah. And people now are like, "Ew, you like that?" I'm like,
Oh, I love tapioca pudding, but I like mine warm. So I'm taking this poll on my Facebook who likes tapioca pudding and if they like it warm or cold. Most
okay.
of them are saying cold, so I'm losing, but I don't care. I just drink it like syrup.
I love that. I'm gonna have to vote on that poll because I didn't see it yet today. I'm like
Okay.
literally trying to prepare, and I did get the calendar that I went
I'm
today, and I
so proud of you. Good
yes, I'm like
job.
this thing right
Job.
here.
This is awesome. Well, let's get going.
Yes. All right. So, can you just introduce yourself to the audience? Let everybody know what you do, and then we can get into like the question part.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Bambi. My middle name is Lynn, so I usually go by Bambi Lynn. That is my first and middle name. I don't go by my last name because I don't give any credit for men in my life, because only God has done all this. I am a mother of 6 adult children, and I have 13 grandchildren, 10 grandsons, and 3 granddaughters. And I do have one of those grandsons that is in the arms of Jesus that he passed away hours after he was born. I am a 2-time published author. My 3rd book is coming out. It's in editing right now. So I don't want to like lie or anything. So it is 2, but one is coming. One will be coming out next year. So other than that, we'll find out more about me as you go on.
Okay, so start like from the beginning. I mean, obviously everyone has a story that pushes them and you decided to become an author. So can you just share with our audience like what inspired you to become an author? Like did you always know that you wanted to do that?
When I was in 7th grade, I had a 7th grade English teacher that her and I didn't get along very well, but I think we just tested each other. I spent a lot of time in the corner with gum on my nose because I talked all the time and I always had gum. So I spent a lot of time inside of the corner. But one time we had to write something. We had to write a paper on what we saw in a window. So we could pick any window we wanted, but we had to tell the story of what we saw. So some people picked a car, an ambulance, or a hotel, or whatever. You had to pick it, but you told the story. So I actually told the story of my life, of what was happening kind of like in my home life and how I was sneaking out of the house at night to, go to the town and things like that. So I wrote my story and she graded it and she was handing them out and she said, Bambi, I want to see you in my office afterwards. So I didn't know if she knew that it was me that I was writing about or not. I went into her office. She said, have a seat. So I sat down and she said, I just wanted to tell you that you have a gift. And that gift, there is going to be a day, someday, that you are going to actually represent our school by being an author. Had no idea what that meant because I didn't live in that kind of environment, at home. So I didn't know what it meant to be speaking in somebody's life until until probably 2 years ago when I began to start writing my book. And I remembered her, and I actually dedicated my first book to my English teacher for giving me that hope, even though I didn't know.
Mhm. That's exciting. So, what was your process like from that time up until you made the decision to actually sit down and like commit to, okay, I'm doing this.
I think the process was a lot of healing, because my story is a memoir. So it is a story of my life. It is a story about how, when I was a little girl, my mother gave me a rag doll, and that rag doll became my security blanket. And she became my person that knew all the secrets of my life. So she went through the journey with me throughout my whole life. I didn't have a great life, like, a lot of us, we don't come from picket fences and a dog and a cat, and and the mommy and the daddy kiss when they come home, kind of thing. There was a lot of trauma in my house. My mother raised us back and forth as a single mom. There was a lot of abuse in my home. My father was an alcoholic, and he wasn't a very nice one. And I had a grandfather that molested me when I was like 4 or 5. And our life just was trauma. We were very poor. We didn't have a lot of money. My mother worked. So we were like the working poor, like barely making it, but you didn't make enough to get food stamps and things like that when I was a little girl. I walked through the journey of I had been sexually assaulted. I tried to commit suicide 3 different times. I ended up having a teenage pregnancy, and that pregnancy actually saved my life. And I built a relationship with Jesus at that time. I got married. I married a man from the church. He was into infidelity. That marriage ended after 8 years, and then I remarried again. So the first marriage, I had the 4 girls. The second marriage, I had 2 sons out of it. But 2 weeks after we started our marriage, I became a victim of domestic violence, and that lasted for about 8 years. And then I was a single mom and raised my kids. I homeschooled my children because I wanted to give them a future. I wanted to give them a foundation. And so even though I knew Jesus, it didn't mean that my life was perfect, because it was a journey. It was a journey of letting go of my past, letting go of the residue. In fact, today would have been 25 years. My second husband and I would have been married. And today, the person that I am today would have never picked him in 1,000 years. He wouldn't have been somebody that I would have picked. But I can see who I am today.
Mhm. Isn't that I always find it, and I feel like we were talking about that the other day, like with trauma and
Mhm.
the pain that we go through, it causes like a catapult of transmutation in us, right? So also it changes like the way that what we're used to, what would have been a no or yes before automatically becomes a no just with that experience.
Absolutely.
Mm,
And I think because if we don't understand our trauma, we react out of our trauma and we become our trauma until there's finally a moment in our lives. And it's a moment for everybody. There's an awakening. And I
yes.
think that awakening continues to happen, and it continues to happen throughout our lives, is that, more layers of the onion gets peeled away,
Mhm.
more realization. Yes, I married men that didn't treat me very nice, but then I had to realize, after I dealt with that elephant in the room, then I had to deal with my elephant that was in the room. Why did I choose these people? Why did I feel no value? Why did I think that I needed all the crumbs on the ground when everybody else was at the banqueting table? Why was
Yes.
it when I looked in the mirror, I saw unworthy? Why was it that I saw second rate? Because I had to then begin the journey of myself. I had to, just like we talked about the other day, when we talked about the on how the oyster, the depravity of the oyster and what the oyster has to go through, the beating and the waves and the crashing and the parasites and the sand. But what's happening inside of that oyster that was not there before, because of all of the distress that oyster is going through, when you open it up, you see this beautiful pearl. And it's funny, because when you see the pearl, when you see all the oysters, not all of them have a pearl inside of them. And some of them have big pearls that are worth thousands and thousands of dollars, and some of them have little pearls. So I believe that when I finally opened up that pearl and I allowed God to come in and to take all of that stuff, I have a big, big pearl.
Yes.
It's worth a lot of money because I've been through the ringer. But
Mhm,
that's what happens in life. I'm no different than you are. You have scars just like I have scars.
mhm.
And all that's different about me and what's different about you is that we're using our scars to further people's healing. We're
Exactly.
using our scars. We're being vulnerable enough to share our stories so that somebody else behind us can see that story and they can crave the same healing that we're going through. We become somebody else's first aid kit.
Yes, I loved that you said that the other day because you're literally the first person that I've ever heard put it in that context. And
Yes.
it's like there's so much power behind that. When you think about, a lot of people, it's very difficult for them to be vulnerable and share, those traumas because they don't want to be looked at, as, oh, how could you have possibly allowed something like this? But, not realizing that, hey, if I never went through these things, then I wouldn't be the person I am today, and
Absolutely.
being able to share that you're helping someone, and I say like even if it's just one person, I'm okay with that. Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think about when I was sexually assaulted by my uncle. I moved into my uncle's house the day after my 16th birthday. I left my mother's home because I was tired of all that. I was tired of not feeling loved and the bullying, the bully in school and things like that. And I moved in with my uncle. And this is 50 years, this is 45 years ago. So I didn't know, the terms that they use today of, grooming. He groomed me. And I was in beauty pageants. I went to modeling school. He bought me all new clothes, the stuff that my mother didn't do for me, and things like that. And I had my very first boyfriend inside of a school because I was bullied and nobody would date me because of my name. But then, 2 months into it, he walked into the bathroom when I was taking a shower and said, "Oops, I didn't know you were in the shower." So the next time he walked in the shower again and opened up the curtain and went, "Oh, I didn't know anybody was in here." And then he started coming into my room at night, and just started putting a flashlight on me and started violating me in the room. And people ask me all the time, why didn't I leave? I didn't leave because I just left my mother's house. I didn't leave because I just left her and said, I'm not dealing with this anymore. How could I leave in this state that was happening because I was already guilty? Because then I felt like I deserved what he was doing to me because I ran away from home. So until people understand the full story and understand the full capacity of what I'm 16 years old, that's my brain. My brain is thinking like a 16-year-old.
Mhm. Yes.
I didn't want that being abused to me, but was able to I was able to put it into like doors. This door was opening, this door was closed, and things like that in order for me to survive. And then I finally, after he attacked me during the day, because he always attacked me at night, so I could hide that shame. But then he attacked me in the morning. And at that time, I could no longer hide anymore because now it's in the daytime. So then I finally went, to the nurse's station, and then the domino effects. I ended up in foster care. I ended up, my mother couldn't take me, all these things that happened. So all of us have a story. And if we could just be brave enough to not judge, but to lock arms with each other. We may not have the same story, but our stories are always similar. There is
Yes.
always a dirty old man in the family. There's always an uncle in the family. There's always a drunk in the family. There's always somebody that abuses you. And if we could just lay it all on the table and be honest with that, we would be so much more better. And our healing would be so more advanced if we would just be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, I, just firsthand experience, because I've experienced it double over. So, it happened when I was a child. And I didn't actually speak up until I was probably like 9 or 10, because I kept having like terrible nightmares.
Mhm.
Um, and then also, one of my children, it was a victim of too. And, I feel like it's very much normalized, and it's not just a cultural thing because, growing up in a Black household, it was always, what happens in this house stays in this house. So it's
Absolutely.
like you don't, but I talk to people of all different ethnicities, races, backgrounds, and it seems to be the same consensus as to, when things like this happen, it's the shame and the embarrassment from the adults, and they don't want anybody to know, "Oh, what will they think?" We don't want people looking at us like that. And then, what ends up happening is these kids are acting out, or because I remember like I went through the worst, like my mom, poor thing, because it was like, the lying and the promiscuity and, well into my 20s. So,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand the psychology of, why am I thought it was normal, you know?
Yep.
But then
Absolutely.
that it's not,
You know,
But
I am my book, I was interviewing a woman, and she was a Black woman, and we got to talking about this, and she said, "Yeah, in my culture, we don't talk about that.
Mhm.
We don't bring it up,
Yeah.
and everybody knows it happens, but you don't bring it up. We all know that Uncle Harry,
Mhm.
is the one that's going to try to touch you and want to be on your lap, but we just don't talk about it."
Yeah.
And I gave her my book, and she read my book, and she called me 2 days later. She goes, "Oh my goodness, Bambi, you spoke to my soul. Like you released my soul for me to start healing and to start talking.
Mhm.
You told my story from a white girl.
Yeah.
You told my story." And she was like, she was just like, she was spent
Mhm.
that somebody else knew her story, because the story, just like you said, it doesn't matter where we came from. It doesn't matter how rich we are or how poor we are. It doesn't matter whether we're in the mansion or in the projects. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether we're Black or white. Those things happen, and we need to just start dealing with it and understand that we are dealing with a society that is broken in their trauma.
Mhm.
Their trauma has attacked. It's kind of like, like slugs, leeches. It's
Mhm.
attached to them. And sometimes, but the only difference is the people that wants to be set free, I started taking those leeches off and said, no more. I'm not
Yes.
having this anymore. I'm not going to live with this anymore. I want to be set free. I
Mhm.
don't want to be in the room that I have to talk about that. In order for you to give me attention, that I got to talk about what happened to me. I don't want to
Exactly.
be that woman anymore. I don't want to be the woman that has to be the one in the room that's talking about being, having a husband that hits me. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to be set free from it. It is part of my story, and it
Mhm.
will always be part of my story, but I want the second half to be what people remember, that I once was really, really broken, but now God is having me to become who I am today. I want to be somebody that somebody says, wow, she knows, she's been there, she's honest, she talks about it. I want to be that person that wraps my arm around you and said, let's journey together.
Exactly.
I don't want to be the center of attention anymore because of my brokenness. I want to be the center of attention because I've been healed and set free.
Exactly. It's my liberation time.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I'm free, free indeed.
So let me ask you when because this comes up a lot. I remember years ago, um when I was going through the height of my separation from my husband, and people used to say, you just need to love yourself, like work on you, work on yourself, heal yourself, right? And like when people say that, they don't give like set instructions. So like what does that look like to you? Like what did you do to begin to put the pieces back together?
I am I first revealed the fact that it happened,
Mhm.
and I didn't hide it anymore. Then I intentionally picked friends. I didn't have all the leeches attached to me. I didn't have all the people that let's go and talk about it all the time and who's got a better story and who doesn't. I intentionally picked friendships that I wanted to become in 5 years. I picked people that were moving on, were moving forward, that weren't just staying in one spot. I began to start putting index cards around my house of who I was, who the kind of person that I am free, that I am blessed, that I am secured. You start putting them around, and I started marching around my house and declaring all those things that were for me. I had to get rid of some of the shame, to carry, because people said, Bambi, you were such a strong woman. Like, I can't believe that you did this. And I stopped that narrative of, because everybody says, even like with being a victim of domestic violence, people always ask, why does a woman stay? Why does a woman stay? So just recently I wrote a blog, and I told the reason why I stayed. And then I said, you're asking the wrong question. The question should never be why she stayed. The question should always be, why did he think he had the right to hit her in the first place? Let's start there.
There.
Start me that I'm wrong because I stayed. I'm the one with all the children. I'm the one that has no money. He controls it all. Yeah. He had no right to hit me, to even put me in that position, to even think. So I think we need to change the narrative. You need to take the blame off of yourself. You need to set yourself free. And then once you take the blame out of yourself and you forgive yourself for eating the crumbs on the ground because you didn't think you could sit at the banqueting table, then you start the process. And then after a while, that elephant that's in the room, which was my husband that was hitting me, once I deal with that, then that elephant leaves, and then I have to deal with myself. Yeah. Then it's time to journey. Who is Bambi? Who am I? What makes me tick? What things affected me? It's kind of, I told you before that I read the book by Viola Davis, of finding herself and who she was. And she had to come to a point, her counselor said to her that your 8-year-old self already healed. Your 8-year-old self already went through that already. You don't have to keep going back there.
Yes.
Let that 8-year self do what she already did. She already set you free. Now you do what you're supposed to do. Thrive.
Yes.
Don't disappoint that 8-year-old girl because she already fought the battle.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one that got sexually abused. She's the one that the rats were eating her baby dolls. She's the one that saw that. You didn't. So why are you hanging on to that?
Yes.
And I think that sometimes people hang on to things as security blankets.
Mm-hmm. No,
they don't want to change.
Mm-hmm.
They want to stay the victim.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, if you continue to stay the victim, nobody wants to be around you.
Yeah, exactly.
People are tired of hearing your story over and over again, and poor me.
Mm-hmm. And I think it takes a much stronger person to kind of say goodbye to that victim mentality and actually decide to be the hero in their own story. It's very easy to stay in a place of sadness and repetition surrounding that trauma. What's even harder is changing that mindset, because it took me like the longest to get away from that, and so I know it literally feels like it's like a battle between the angel and the devil that's going on in your mind, where you're trying to propel forward, but something in your mind is trying to keep you locked back into that, that old frame of thinking. And, it can be a hell of one's own making, really.
I heard there's a really great motivational speaker. Her name is Brené Brown. And she tells about the stories that we tell in our heads. We tell stories, about 60 to 70 stories within inside of our head every single day that aren't even true. We've made them up. It's kind of like sometimes people have said, even when your husband and you have an argument in the morning, you are arguing back and forth all day long in your head. So when he gets home, he's like, what the heck just happened?
What's wrong with you?
You have just been arguing with him all day long in your own head. And we put things in if somebody tells us, hey, I'm going to call you in 5 minutes, and they don't call us, we immediately say, oh my goodness, what did I do? Why doesn't that person want to call me? When maybe something just happened at her door and she had to pick it up. when our children are late, she uses this example. When our children are late, as mothers, we already have them on the side of the road. Their phone was thrown down. They were dead. They're stuck there. When really they ran the stop sign, and the stop sign, like they had whatever happened is the truth. No, we have them dead on the side of the road, and we have to go to the morgue. So I know that's extreme, but that's what we do.
It's crazy how the human mind works. Yes.
Why do we do that to ourselves?
I have no idea. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've gotten better, so I have to give myself, that space and grace that I don't do that anymore as badly.
As
But
bad.
like I can just name like it's like literally a whole script. Like you've planned and you see it through like straight to the end. And then like by the time like you're faced with reality, like you cannot decipher what the difference is between what you've already told yourself in your mind and what you're looking directly at. So
Isn't that so true? And that was one of my goals this year, is that I was going to stop myself from those stories.
yes.
Stop myself, because whether you're healed, transformed, or renewed or whatever, there's still residue of things.
Yes.
And I had to stop those stories. And so I catch myself going, oh, wait a minute. No, that's not what happened. She'll call me or she'll text me to tell me why. It had nothing to do that she didn't like me.
Yeah.
If somebody said, oh, your shirt. I don't know it doesn't mean that they thought that I was ugly. They just didn't like my shirt. But I have it all down the line. And so that was one of my goals this year, is to stop telling myself those stories in my head and stop and start telling the truth, or wait for the truth to happen.
Exactly.
I had somebody just yesterday, she had texted me this video. And so I text her back, and she's just an acquaintance of mine. And I said, question mark, question mark, question mark. And she goes, no, I just thought it was something that was really powerful. And that's what you talk about. And I just follow you. And I just wanted to encourage you. I'm like, oh, okay. She goes, why? What's wrong? I said, oh, I thought you were texting me that to tell me to shut up, that I talk too much.
It's one from those traumas though, because when it's what it ultimately boils down to? It's getting out of survivor mode and actually living. And it's so difficult, I feel like. It's not impossible, but I feel like it's way harder. And that's why, it's like the girlies that get it, and those that don't won't, So it's like it's a constant thing. It doesn't ever stop because, for you, just having to have, if you lived in survivor mode for, a majority of your life, and then you wake up and it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need to be able to, actually do things and live and change the way that I think. It's like your mind is trying to, again, like that it's trying to pull you back to, you're like, no, get off me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think about too, is that, I lived in the North. I grew up, all my life was in the North. I raised my children. I went through all my trauma and everything in the North. And I'm now living in the South. Okay. And they are excited about seeing what God is doing in my life and how God is making me an influence, for people around me, that I'm becoming a woman of influence. The people in the North, they know my past. So they would like to keep me there in my past, because they know the details that I share, but I don't necessarily share everything.
Yes.
So I needed to leave the North. It's kind of like, that even Jesus was not wanted in Nazareth. Oh, that's Mary's mother. Oh, Mary's son. Oh, yeah. Oh, so they knew him. So he had to leave. He wasn't welcomed.
Yes.
There, because they knew his story. So I had to move to the South, and God really has opened up doors and opportunities and opened up, things for me to do since April. I've done now, it was on my face. Now I've done 87 different podcasts. Wow. I wouldn't have known anything about that.
Yes.
Before. But now I'm being in this space to be able to help set people free. Now I am becoming the woman of influence that God gave to me, that dream that he gave to me when I was 28 years old.
Yes. I think that's beautiful. Yes. So with how do you find it different down there versus up here? Because I hear things, but you're
They're
living it.
not, they're not as friendly as you would have thought.
Southern
Like,
hospitality.
no, it's kind of like a falsehood.
Oh
Um,
man.
that
Okay.
bless your heart is you never know what it really means.
Whoa. Is it?
Whether,
Okay.
for us, bless your heart is like, oh my goodness, it's awesome. Bless your heart here could be you're stupid or F you or, I'm
Okay.
stabbing you as um, somebody had said that the Gone with the Wind hospitality really screwed the South.
Oh my God.
They don't have people at their houses, which is kind of strange. Like, my house was always open for everybody to be at my house. I've had more people here as a guest at my house feeding them than they've had in, decades. It's just not their thing. But they talk really nice to your face.
Well, that's good. At least they make you feel good while you're among.
I mean, they talk really nice to your face, but there's a lot of Northerners here.
Okay. So maybe
There's
it's
a lot of us here.
Mm,
So the South says that we're a damn Yankee.
yeah,
I'm not a Yankee. I'm a damn Yankee because how
damn
dare I?
it.
And the other thing is, their barbecue is amazing. Their pizza sucks.
Man, all right. So you let me know if you need me to mail you some pizza. Gotcha.
I was in Buffalo just recently, and I actually bought two sheet pizzas and put it all in Ziploc bags to take it home to me.
I know that's right. Some for the freezer.
Yeah, I did. It was like I needed to have pizza, because the pizza here is like the North's gas station pizza. That's what it's like. That's what their pizza is here.
That is not cool.
No, not at all. The weather's beautiful if it's not raining. The raining really is bad.
Oh my gosh. Is it it's not is it hurricane season out there or did that
They say it still is.
Okay.
I got hit twice by both of the main hurricanes. Like I didn't have electric for 5.5 days and no internet, no phone, stuff like that. It's starting to get nice, not heat, not like scorching heat. It's starting to get nice. So, I mean, there are definitely some great things about the South. But I really I went home during fall. So, I mean, there's nothing like autumn in New York. I mean, there's nothing like the leaves changing and, life happening. It doesn't happen like that here.
Yeah. So, I wanted to touch on something really quickly because I feel like it's kind of like one of those things you had mentioned you moved for the reason that you moved, and I think that's great. Because sometimes it's what is that saying? It goes something non-verbatim like, it's not the flower is where the flower is planted, right? Sometimes, you can't grow in the environment that you're at,
Yeah.
For women that, may feel like they're not excelling to their full potential where they're at. Like what advice would you give them? Like what inspired you to move exactly? Because you knew where you were going. So
well, I moved because my children told me to.
Okay. Go, Mom.
My children, I have, just like I told you, I had 6 children. 3 of them were in the military. And they said, Mom, we're never going back to Buffalo. Just move. So when I was working full-time traveling across the country, so I was never home and stuff, but I did own my home. Okay. I owned my home. It was paid free and clear. But then my kids are like, Mom, just moved here. So I moved in with my daughter, that they had a room for me and stuff like that. And then my former son-in-law decides to have an affair. So they sell their house. So then I'm stuck. Like I already sold my house. Now I'm stuck being homeless. My children tell me that I'm just a little dramatic because I could have had a house anywhere kind of thing. So it was a really tough adjustment for me. Because here I wasn't around my kids all the time now. Now I had to find an apartment. And and I owned my home. So it was a transition. It was the first year that I lived here, I was really depressed. I was really depressed saying, okay, God, I don't want to die, but if you choose to take me today, I'll be fine with that, because I was so lonely, because I had friends that had been with me for 30, 40 years.
Mhm.
And now I had nothing here. So it was very difficult, but I had to do things. I had to intentionally do things to help me get out of it. So I joined, there was the library was doing an author thing. So I went there and I met an elderly woman that was 70 years old, and she had written her first book at 70. They invited me to a get together with women, that every Tuesday, these women get together for dinner. She invited me to that. Then I was invited to another group. So I had to do things intentionally. I had to intentionally get dressed. I had to intentionally say, I'm going to do something different. If we're going, it's kind of like that saying, you go around the mountain the same time over and over again. That's insanity.
Mhm.
So in order for women to change the atmosphere, they also have to change something in the atmosphere.
This is true.
They have to be willing to, if they never went for a walk at nighttime, they got to start going for a walk. If they never woke up past, before 9 o'clock, set your clock for 7. Start doing things intentionally. If you've never wrote down anything, wrote down your feelings or something, start doing that. If you've never did words of affirmation to yourself, start doing that. Start doing things to make you accountable to yourself and to make you accountable to your healing. You're not going to heal by just sitting on the couch with your bombs and your Coke and your bathrobe and not doing anything.
Yes.
You're not going to heal. You've
Mhm.
got to intentionally. Healing is intentional. If you're
Yes.
not intentionally healing, then stop crying to me.
Mhm.
Because you've got to do something, and make sure that you have friends that make you accountable. Make sure you have friends in your life that say to you, Bambi, you got 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to scream, yell, curse, throw something, do whatever you need to do. But after that 10 minutes, then we're going to tell you the truth.
Yes.
You need friends that are not going to keep you in the ditch.
Mhm.
You need friends that are taking everything that they possibly will take to get you out of that ditch. So you have to reprogram your mind. There's a famous motivational speaker, Mel Robbins.
I love her. Oh my God, I love Mel Robbins.
She does the 5-second rule.
Mhm.
Don't have your brain go to 6 seconds, because the moment your brain goes to 6 seconds, it creates fear, because your brain was created for fear, was created to make sure you're going to be safe. So you do within the first 5 seconds. Stop waiting to say an answer and start just answering.
Exactly.
Stop having your life stop because you're thinking too much about it. I jumped out of a plane at 49 years old because of the 5-second rule.
Yes. I
Would
love
never
that.
do it again. I would absolutely never do it again. But I
So, but at least you did it once. So
I did it once.
Mhm.
So that's what I would tell people: start living intentionally.
Mhm.
And I think about this. Think about the story of Dumbo or Rudolph. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. He was born with a red nose. He didn't think that everybody bullied him. He didn't think he had a purpose. He didn't think he had a plan. He didn't think, he walked off by himself, but on Christmas Eve, it was foggy.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, the reason why he was born came to pass. And Santa Claus came to him and said, I need your nose today. I need your red nose. You were born with talents. You were born with a purpose. You were born with a destiny. Just because the world sees things differently doesn't mean that is set in stone. Just the reason why the world sees that they think who you are, that's not who you are. I think about my name. I have a strange name, Bambi Lynn. And forever, my name is a show name. My name is an exotic dancer name. And so I lived that life. I believed that. I believe, and I carry that shame that this is what my name meant, until I finally, at 32 years old, went to the bookstore, gave God an ultimatum, and said, I need to find out what my name means, or I'm changing my name to Janet. And I sat at that bookstore and I took all the books off of the stand, off of the thing. And I said, God, I'm not kidding. And when I opened up the book and I realized that my name together means holy child, changed my destiny,
Wow.
gave me my purpose, gave me the red nose that I was okay with.
Mhm.
You think about Dumbo and you think about, he's born with these big ass ears.
Mhm.
He's tripping over them. He does, everybody's making fun of him. The mothers are saying, oh my goodness, I wouldn't want a child like that.
Mhm.
But he was because of his ears, he was able to save somebody out of a burning building.
Exactly.
So look at who you are, and look at the things that the world says. I was bullied because of my name. I didn't date. People were mean to me. I was better in the backseat of people's cars than I was holding their hand in a classroom. But God, from the foundations of time, created me, molded me, and gave me purpose and destiny. And now my name means holy child. And I can now come on 85 different podcasts and I can share that God's not finished with you. I can share that your life has a purpose, that your life has a destiny, that you were formed in your mother's womb even before you were formed in your mother's womb. I can come to you and say, I've been there. I understand. But let's walk through this journey together. And I couldn't have done that. And Rudolph couldn't have done that unless he was born with a red nose.
Yeah.
Dumbo couldn't have done that unless he was born with the big ears. So remember who you are. Find the qualities and the purposes that are dying inside of you. Find your why. Why am I alive? What burns inside of my soul to want to give to this world?
Yeah. That's very, very powerful, because I think also, when I think about what that means, they say, a lot of people, it's very hard for them to get to their potential because many people never truly understand who they are fundamentally. Like, not who they are trauma wise, not who they are, based on, old patterns of behaviors, but who they fundamentally are. And I think, you finding the name of the meaning of your name, that all in itself, like, that is literally a true testament to, like, you know, your purpose is coded in a lot of people, I believe, their purpose is coded in their names.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's definitely a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And people
So
just need to do that. They need to
yeah,
find who they are.
mhm, I agree. So now I think the last thing I wanted to ask you is, and I think we talked about this before, but when I had asked you about, like, healing, and as far as, like, advice that you would give, let's say when you first decided that you were done being, trampled over, right? How old were you?
Oh, well, I'm 50. I'm going to be 55 in January.
Mhm.
So when I really figured that out, I was 54 in 7 months.
Okay. Oh, so a year. Okay. All right.
No, I'm
Perfect.
saying it's a daily thing. I'm saying
Perfect.
that, I'm saying, whatever age I am today, that's when I figured it out.
Okay. So what I'm gonna ask you is, if you can give someone that was around the age when you first heard that call, right? A message that can help save them from,
Mm.
whatever path they're going down, or, to wake them up to their purpose or their truth, what would that be?
Well, I would say, and it definitely wasn't just recently. It's been a journey since I was like 22 years old.
All right, so 22.
I
So
was just, I was trying to be, I was just trying to think, because I wanted your audience to know that it's a daily thing.
yeah.
You have to wake up to arrive,
Mhm.
and sometimes, we get so caught up in like, oh, I've arrived, when I really haven't. I'm on this journey just as much as everybody else is. And I have to get rid of this residue that I carry around daily. I have to make sure that I'm putting on the mind that's going to set, that's going to set this captive free. Yes. I think that, when I would say like when I married my second husband and we went through our divorce for, 2.5 years, I began to start living intentionally. I began to start living that I had hope, because all hope was taken away from me. He had told me that I was, white trash, and that I belonged in a trailer park, and, I wasn't going to amount to anything. And I had to find myself again. I had to find my voice. And sometimes you have to find your voice by being quiet. I had to go places to be quiet, to hear what was within inside of me. I had to go places to set Bambi free from herself. And sometimes we are our worst critics. It's because, we're comparing ourselves to other people around. And this is my journey. My journey is not going to look like anybody else's journey. My journey is going to have some resemblance, but it's going to be my journey. And I cannot continue to compare my journey with everybody else. I can't continue to compare my life like everybody else. And when I look in the mirror, I continue to see, a woman that God set apart, a woman that he called me blessed, a woman that he put destiny within inside of me. And I just had to find it. I had to realize that superhero cape, that he fitted it for me personally, so that I can look in the mirror and I can put that superhero cape on and I can see the woman that survived and thrived and continues to blossom in my story. But that superhero is mine. Yes. I don't need another superhero. I don't need Catwoman or Wonder Woman. I have Bambi that God set apart. And I have to realize who my identity is. I have to realize that I put a crown, like when I do events with women. I did this one event just recently that I actually put a cape around the woman, and I told her that you are your own superhero. You survived your own story. I put I put a crown on top of her head and said, every day fix that crown because you are royalty. You've been set apart. And I made them stand in front of the mirror and I took a picture of them so that I could send them that picture as a total reminder of who they are. Look at your own reflection. Look at your reflection and know that there's a purpose in your life. Look at your reflection and stop telling yourself what everybody else wants to hear and start telling yourself what is inside of you. I am not a dirty little girl because I've been abused. I've been healed and I was broken, but now I'm whole. Change the narrative of how you speak to yourself. Change the narrative on what you allow other people to say in your life. I had identical twin boys and people would go, oh my goodness, here's double trouble. And I would say, no, they are double blessings. I would never allow other people to speak, a curse over my children.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what they're going to become if you keep allowing people to speak things. If you allow people to keep speaking things into your life. I'm not the 5-year-old girl that was molested at 55 years old. I'm not her anymore. I don't know her. I don't recognize her. I'm not her. So don't have people in your life want to tell you who you are when you're not. That's who I was.
Yes.
Not who I am. Mm-hmm. So fill your life with people, fill your house. If you're if you have some bad emoji for the day, turn the music on really sky high, turn it on, dance around and shake it off.
Yes.
Take all your clothes off and let everything just fly off. But change the atmosphere.
Yes.
Change the atmosphere. Don't allow yourself to get into the pit because it's hard to continue to climb out.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time you fall in, it gets a little harder too. So I like to try to maintain a level of balance, emotionally. One of the things that I've learned, over time is to not overly attach to outcomes, because I feel like that's where, a lot of the sadness will come from, a failed expectation. And, you expect things that you're attached to. So if you kind of like keep it somewhere in the middle, and
Yeah,
try to be balanced out. Mm, that's
absolutely.
that's it.
That's awesome.
Yes, I love this. This was awesome. So I'm gonna stop recording
Oh,
for a second. Did I? Okay.
well, thank you so much for having me on your guest on your podcast. I'm really excited that I was your first, so you'll always remember that.
I definitely
Thank
will.
you so much for your audience. And if anybody wanted to get in touch with me or wanted to reach out, I am on all the social media platforms. I am on Facebook. It's just Bambi Lynn. I'm on Instagram, which is lynn.bambi. I'm on LinkedIn, and it's Bambi Makowski, Makowski. I also do have my own website, and it's called healingthroughstories.com. It's all one word. And you can subscribe to my website where I am a blogger and I blog each week a story. And I also, if there's anybody that ever wants to share their story, they can also email me at josephine.rstory@gmail.com. And you can request the fact that you would love to share your story. It can be anonymous too. So thank you so much for your audience for listening and for, realizing that we're here to help heal the brokenhearted. And we're just here to tell you that we've been there and we want to help your journey. So take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Good night.